Friends, pro-life leader Frank Pavone here. Thanks for joining me for my daily diary. I believe in the kind of transparency, accountability, and I think that leads to celebration of the work God gives us to do. That's why I share these updates with you all the time. What did I do morning to night? From Saturday, April 18th through Tuesday, April 21st. And by the way, when I say morning to night, when I give you these updates and tell you what I did, that's the totality of it. I don't, if something happens in the middle of the night, it's going to be included in these updates. So you're getting the full picture of every waking hour. So Saturday, April 18th, about 4 in the morning, I was getting into an Uber to go from my office to the Orlando airport. I had an early morning flight to Washington, D.C. for some exciting events taking place there over these next few days, as you're about to hear about. And I did work on the plane, had lots of work to do on my emails, actually, both on the plane. And then once I landed, went to my office, my Washington, D.C. office, right behind the Supreme Court. Got in there and sat down and started doing work on things like the following: some financial stuff, reporting and record keeping, antivirus software, communicating with our technology department about that, trip plans for upcoming invitations, approval of appeal letters, communication with the seminaries, the conference headed by Ralph Reed coming up in June, some communication about that, about the course I do for a Catholic online school, communications in regard to our friend Peggy Nienaber, recently deceased, report from the DOJ about the persecution of pro-lifers. Did some work in communicating about that. Our prospecting program, where you mail for new donors. My reinstatement to priesthood, some communication with one of our bishop friends about that. That's all still in progress. Very, very, a lot of patience required for a process like that. Looking at close house races for the 2026 midterm, some communication about that. Some things in regard to my family home, some things in regard to the website, and liturgical revisions on the website. That is, when priests want to put things in the bulletin or preach on pro-life, we got plenty of resources for them for every weekend. So I had these hours of work at my DC office there. And then in the middle of the afternoon, I went over to the hotel where I will be staying for the night, and checked in, did a little bit more work, and then I had a car booked at 4:15 to take me over to what's called the Capitol Turnaround. It's a nice gathering spot, and it was a big reception there for the initiation of a week-long event called America Reads the Bible. If you've been watching my broadcast, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was invited to this VIP reception, all kinds of people there that are friends of ours and people you would know in the Christian world. I think of my friend Rich Bott, for example, who heads up Bott Radio Network. He was there, and many, many others in the Christian leadership, faith, and broadcasting and political space. So had a great, one of my staff members, our Washington, D.C. staff person was there as well. We connected there after the reception where there were some light foods. We had a program, and it was a series of speeches. My friend David Barton was there, Wall Builders. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was there too. And he gave a great set of remarks. So initiating this reading of the Bible from cover to cover by some of our highest government officials, including the president. And we kicked off the event in a beautiful way, and then I went back to my hotel later that night. Sunday the 19th, of course, Day of the Lord, worship, went over to one of the local churches, but worked in my hotel room with various things such as, I did some taping there in the hotel room for a message to the Virginia March for Life. I like to give messages to the state marches for life. Worked on my computer on plans for upcoming travels, some online election prayers, some updates to Pro-Life Vote, our C4 organization. Messages also prepared for the Alaska March for Life. preparations for our pro-life leadership meeting coming up, and for other future tapings, and for opinion pieces to submit to various publications, and for communications to our donors. Had to do a lot of this work, a lot of quiet work, catching up, reading, studying, and writing. All then leading up to, in the evening, I just walked down the street to the Museum of the Bible for the America Reads the Bible event. Now, it had started that morning. People were reading throughout the day. Like I say, I was one of several hundred leaders chosen to be one of the readers, and I did my reading that night, April 19th. I got there early, of course, went into the green room, interacted with some of the other leaders that were there, listened to some of the reading from that was being done by some others, and then at the appointed time, which was at 8 p.m., went out onto the stage to do my reading from the book of Numbers. Great experience, went back into the room afterwards, interacted with more of the leaders, and then returned to my hotel. Monday the 20th was a day there in D.C., various work at my D.C. office, and some meetings, which I'll tell you about. Got up and went to an early breakfast, and then checked out of the hotel I was in, went over to my Gospel of Life, we call it the Gospel of Life office. It's our Priest for Life office in Washington, D.C., and settled in there to do some work, did some work up until about 9:45. Some of the things I dealt with on my computer had to do with the writing of another op-ed. I wrote about the America Reads the Bible event. Some interviews, planning interviews with other leaders, approving appeals and e-appeals, work with Catholic Online, more work about the elections preparation and state marches and donor calls, communication with Fox News about my appearance on one of their programs, and updating the different pages about voting on our website. The car picked me up at 9:45, so it brought me over to the Department of Health and Human Services, where I met with one of the officials over there. One of the things we talked about, of course, was the abortion drugs and the review that's being done of those drugs and some of the strategies that we need to implement for the pro-life movement and the faith community. It was a great meeting. Spent a good amount of time there. And then had some lunch, came back to my Washington office, continued working, had a meeting with some staff in the gift entry department at 3 o'clock. And then a 4:30 meeting with one of our key website people about pro-life vote and the information about voting that we have online. At 5 o'clock, a meeting with some of our website people in regard to the use of artificial intelligence for development of brochures and things like that. And then after that, I went over to a different hotel where I was going to be staying for the next couple of nights, checked in, did some quiet work for the ending of the day. Tuesday, April 21st, another day in Washington, D.C. What did I do? I got up early, started work at my desk in terms of some meetings with the administration, planning upcoming trips, sending birthday greetings to Gianna Molla, who's the daughter of Saint Gianna Molla. Then a brochure about our C4 called Pro-Life Vote. I had a prepared wording for that. More work on our travelogue, one of our bi-monthly mailings, and Catholic Online course, for finishing touches on that. Donation letters, prospecting work, and also work communication with a pro-life leader who has a podcast and has me on regularly as a guest host. At 8:45 in the morning, I had a national interview, so I logged in via Zoom and did that interview for about 15 minutes. Then continued with work there in the morning at my hotel room, and then went over to Fox News Studios, and I was on a panel about 45 minutes actually with Brian Kilmeade and a number of others on a program where we were discussing the Pope, the President, and the war in Iran, the military intervention, we should say. And that was a very good discussion. I arrived there at 12:30. The interview was at 1:30, and then I headed back to my, actually, before I headed back to my office, it's right behind the Supreme Court, but before I went into the office, I went over to the Capitol building and did some taping outside. You see some of my online videos where I'm standing with the Capitol in the background. I taped a couple of prayers in preparation for the election. I went over to the Supreme Court and I happened to run into my friend and colleague, Alan Parker of the Justice Foundation. And so we did an impromptu taping right there in front of the Supreme Court about pro-life and the way the court handles abortion. That was a great moment there. Did a good video. And then I went back over to the Capitol, because then I was speaking at an evening event. So I connected at around 5 in the afternoon with the wall builders, led by David Barton. Chatted with David as he arrived and his wife, Cheryl, and their staff. And we had a couple of hundred pastors gather together. David has these pastors come from across the country, gives them a tour of the Capitol. But before the tour, there are a couple of talks given. So we were in a special meeting room right underneath the Capitol. And I was privileged to be one of 2 speakers that night. I mean, aside from David himself, who gave the tour, but it was me and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who came down to address these pastors. Of course, Speaker Johnson spoke about the greatness of America as we get ready to celebrate our 250th. We are celebrating it, and spoke about the work of the Congress. And of course, I spoke about abortion and fired them up, and they were cheering and applauding for both of us. And as David led them on the tour, then I went back to my office, got some quiet evening work done to finish out the day. And that's what I did from the 18th to the 21st of April, 2026. What a marvelous privilege to do this work. And I'm always going to be completely open book with you and everyone else about what I do minute to minute, hour by hour. I think all the leaders should be that way. Got to be able to trust those you support in leadership. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.
Hello, friends of Priests for Life. This is Astrid Bennett de Orduño. I just want to express my gratitude for Father Frank and Janet and all the staff at Priests for Life for the incredible support that I've received personally for the pro-life work that God has called me to. Over 25 years ago, I first encountered Father Frank when he invited people like you and me to be involved full-time in the pro-life movement. I didn't think it was possible, but I opened my heart, and thanks to the guidance and encouragement and support of Father Frank and everyone at Priests for Life, I was able to begin serving full-time to save the babies, Bless the mothers who are in crisis pregnancy through my work at Hispanics for Life, my work at Los Angeles Pregnancy Services, and also now through EWTN, through the various shows like the March for Life coverage in Spanish and Informe Pro Vida, which is the Spanish language pro-life programming at EWTN Spanish. We're so grateful, and we thank Father for his continued witness that it is so important that we continue to be committed to victory, because we're already working from victory. Jesus has already conquered death through his cross and resurrection. So thank you for being a part of this beautiful work as well. God bless.
Follow him, Frank Pavone, Fr. Frank Pavone. He is the National Director of Priests for Life. Please go to priestsforlife.org.
Frank Pavone. Frank, thank you